been unusual, certainly very different from 2008 because there's only one party where the action is, in the Republican Party. 2008, we obviously had Obama and Hillary Clinton vying, as well as John McCain and Mitt Romney. So all the action on the Republican side, and then trying to take an assessment of Mitt Romney. He was defeated here 4 years ago. He seems to be by far the front runner this time. Why people may have changed their minds on him, or if they really have, if they just think he's the best alternative.
You will be crunching the numbers tonight for CBS News and kind of looking at some of the trends. Let me break down in layman terms, because we were talking to Bill Gardner about the independent vote. And let me just put this up hypothetically, that John Huntsman does better than expected, but does so because of the independent vote in this state, something that he would not have in South Carolina. If that happens, what does that tell you?
Well, I think we see both John Huntsman and Ron Paul doing very well with those independent voters in Iowa. I expect that the same here. If they can't vote in South Carolina, then these two candidates may be problematic for them if that's where their next stop is in order to keep their momentum going. On the other hand, it also is a statement of their strength in a potential general election. Huntsman would like to make the claim that Romney's been making, that he's the most electable candidate, and because of the independent vote. So he may have to skip to another state where independents factor in, but South Carolina, as a closed primary, only Republicans voting, may be really hard for him.
It's already been talked about here that the media, the mainstream media, and others may want to make this more of a story, that Mitt Romney could do very well. It would be the first time a non-incumbent president could potentially win Iowa and New Hampshire, and yet the media may spin it a different way.
Well, you know, I'm not totally in disagreement with that. I think there is a desire in the media to see a full-fledged campaign. Only a very, very small handful of people have voted so far. We've seen debates, we've seen polls, but more people hopefully will get to make a choice before all the candidates have to leave because they don't have money or what have you. So the desire for a story, but also I think in a democratic sense, the desire to see the people express their voices and not close this thing down before a lot of people in some of the major states have a chance to vote.
Dotty Lynch is a political analyst and also a professor. If you go to the Concord Monitor website, the story from the Monitor staff pointing out that some visiting American University students decided to find out what voters were thinking about, and so many of these students asking local voters in Concord, which is the state capital, who they supported and why. If you want to read the story, it's available on the Concord Monitor website. Jose Morales is from Monroe, New York. He's an undergraduate student at the American University, and Allison Green, who's from Manhattan, Kansas, a graduate student. Allison Green, let me ask you first, as you see this process firsthand, what have you seen and what have you learned?
Well, I think coming from Kansas is the biggest difference for me. Kansas is a state that never sees presidential candidates. We don't have very many electoral votes, and it's just not a state that they need to come see. So being out here, seeing all the candidates, talking to voters, and really seeing the crush of the media that's been around following the candidates. I was at a polling place at Webster Elementary this morning in Manchester. We saw Newt Gingrich come by, Mitt Romney come by, but the thing that really struck out to me was just the sheer number of press, cameras that were following around the candidates and sort of really overwhelming the more retail politics side of what I'd expected to see.
And the good news is the weather is mild. You've been here many New Hampshire primaries, Dotty Lynch, where it's been snowing and very cold. Jose Morales, who have you covered over the last couple of days?
Via other communications, I've seen almost every other presidential candidate, but I've mostly been following John Huntsman, which has been the story that a lot of us are trying to grab, as independent voters hold a lot of the say here in New Hampshire. And I got to see him in Exeter and in Hampstead, New Hampshire, where he is energizing the crowds. And I have to agree with Allison that it was very hard to get a word in edgewise with the governor because he was swarmed by media. And even at Beantown, you heard some residents complaining, it's not fair, that the media always gets to him. So following John Huntsman, I wonder if other candidates are having the same problem, that the media is getting so much time with him that the voters are starting to get very discouraged.
Dotty Lynch, can you give our radio audience a sense of what it's like? We are at the Radisson Hotel, the center of New Hampshire, and CBS is here, ABC, NBC, CNN is down the street, the campaign headquarters are on Elm Street, the C-SPAN bus is outside, the Occupy New Hampshire protesters are outside. Newt Gingrich is going to deliver his remarks remarks at the hotel here tonight. What's this like?
It really is somewhere between ground zero and a cocktail party. If you go to the lobby of this hotel, every national media person passes through. Some of what we've heard about, the political tourists are here to catch some of that. But it's also pretty exciting and fun to see everyone kind of so interested and so engaged in this process. We've encouraged our students to look at this and examine it, but also to get out of Manchester to really try to talk to some voters, as well as seeing the candidates on the hustings rather than just here in Media Central.
So let me conclude to both of you, Allison Green. What are your thoughts, your observations? What do you take away from all of this?
I'm taking away a whole lot from this. I think part of the experience was just being on the ground and getting to see, I mean, Jose and I met Bob Schieffer earlier tonight, just getting to see a lot of the people that we watch on TV regularly, read regularly in the paper, and just seeing all the coverage of the candidates. It's been just a tremendous experience to be here.
As someone who's a political scientist, I'm first jumping into journalism, and this is my first experience really talking to voters, and hopefully it's not the last time. And talking to Huntsman supporters, Paul supporters, Gingrich supporters really gives you a sense of what's actually happening. It gets you out of the media bubble and how important this is to the everyday person. It's not just something on cable or television.
Sounds like Dotty Lynch is a pretty good teacher.
Indeed she is.
So let me conclude to you, Dotty Lynch. What should we look for tonight? What are you expecting?
Well, I think pretty much a Romney win. How much? What the exit polls will tell us a lot about why. Are they voting for him because they really like him on the issues, or because they think he's the strongest candidate? And then obviously those other candidates, how strong is their vote, how much came from independents, and the motivation. I think that's what I always love on election night, when you really get all those question answers. What are the issues and what are the reasons people vote?
Explain how those exit polls work.
Well, the exit polls have been conducted all day long across the state of New Hampshire, random sampling. People coming out of the polling places that have been selected are asked to fill out a questionnaire that will be confidential on the issues, their motivation, who they voted for, who their second choice might be. Then they're all folded into a giant computer system, and the networks and the Associated Press have access to the results, and we all analyze those, not only just to call the race, but to find out the why.
Dotty Lynch with CBS News and a professor at the American University in Washington, D.C. Jose Morales, an undergrad at AU. Allison Green, a graduate student from New York and Kansas, respectively.